Reached out to ask me. Now there it is again. Hang on.
His computer.
Something, I don't know, but this has to stay on, but this one doesn't.
Oh, it's fixed.
It's still echoing.
From where?
Yeah, I don't hear the.
I don't hear it
Is it
either.
just me?
Maybe it's your second ear. It's going in one
It's my
ear.
third ear.
It's going in one ear, going in the
It's my
other.
mom ear, I can hear it. Whew, okay, anyway, so I got the opportunity to work with Jason. He was on which committee was that? Was that growth or education or?
I don't remember.
I don't remember which committee it was, but I completely fell in love with this man in a completely platonic way. I respect him so much. I am literally where I am today, partially because of that phone call. And Jen and Dan and wherever. So I owe you the biggest gratitude of all. Jason's fantastic. He ran a big team. He is known for commercial. He runs Nixa. And now we have the ability to have more of him because he is our assistant team leader. He's stationed in Nixa, if you will. I'm not even doing him justice right now. So is there anything you want to say before we get going on a little bit of who you are and what your specialty is, what your velvet rope might be?
I like the word go rope. So yes, really where I believe that in real estate, I was in real estate for 19 years. It wasn't until I actually was able to pair my passion for the community and real estate to find success, which is why like growing your database is so important. Because like to me, I made Nixa my database, right? Like that was my one thing where I was going to spend my time, where I was going to farm. And so for me, that was what was so important, is pairing my passion. Now I would love to say I had this genius idea and I did all of it on purpose. I didn't. I kind of stumbled into it a little bit. And when I found it, is kind of when things just changed for me. So.
Yeah. So listen to what this man has to say. It's good stuff, promise you. And he's a great speaker. So without further ado, welcome to session 6 with Jason Massengill.
All right, so today, and so everyone that's online, I'm going to ask you the same thing. So as we're going through this, to get the most out of this class and make sure we're not just sitting there and listening to someone, because honestly, that's boring for you and it's boring for me, because we really need this to be an interactive class, right? So if you're in the back of the room, I just ask, will you move up a little bit? I know it's uncomfortable. I know you got to be closer. I'm not going to call anyone, I promise, without permission.
I'm coming. Okay.
Let's make this really an interactive class.
So I need to put them out row.
You're getting in, right?
So if it's okay, I'm going to explain a couple of things before we get started, and the reason why you're going to hear me ask questions, and the reason why I want to make this interactive. So I was reading this really great book, and it said, if you always tell people, if you're always telling people, you only learn to the extent of what your knowledge is. When you ask questions, you learn things from a different perspective or other people's knowledge. And I think just because I've been in the business 19 years does not mean I have all the answers. It might mean I know the questions to ask. It doesn't mean I have the answers. Everyone in here could have the answers themselves. So when we have conversations and I'm asking for, what do you think? It's because I genuinely want to hear your perspective on it. So just keep in mind, just because I'm up here doesn't mean I have all the answers. The answers might come from you guys. So that's the power of having it an interactive class. And maybe the clicker's going to work.
Hit the mouse one time. Click it forward.
It's working here, not there. Okay, well, Shannon helps us with our technology. There we go.
Now you're working.
Thank you. All right, so last session, you guys went over lead generation, right? Right?
Yeah.
All right, who was the instructor last week or last class?
Mark.
Mark Stewart, love that. What were some of your takeaways from Mark Stewart? From the class of lead generation?
Just to grind and work hard every day and be more scheduled and make sure you block off that time to lead gen.
I feel like Mark himself said that, by the way. That sounds exactly like what Mark would say. What's another takeaway from that? Spent like 2 or 3 hours with Mark. Surely we got more out of it.
Find something you're really good at and run with it and focus on that.
Love that. Find something you're really good at and run with it. Love that. What were you saying?
Time blocking, having a schedule so that you don't skip your lead gen.
Time blocking, yeah. Time blocking, or I could say priority management, right? Yeah, love that. What's one more takeaway?
You generate in the morning,
Lead generate in the morning? And what's the reason you lead generate in the morning?
because people are more receptive.
Yeah. Any other reason?
Because you get this done and you don't have to worry about that later.
Yes, and I'm gonna add one more thing for me. It's because the real estate has this unique way of a tornado picking you up and carrying you off, right? And if you give the tornado enough time, it will pick you up and carry you off. There will be some fire that's gonna come up, some excuse you're gonna have. We get it done first thing in the morning while we still have all of our energy. We don't have the fires put out, just knock it out. So, yeah. How are our success systems going?
Still getting used to implementing them consistently with all of the other information that's going on.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about that.
I think some of the other people have expressed too, right now, I'm brand new. I just got my license back in November, so I'm kind of absorbing all of this all at once, so it can get a little overwhelming. So trying to process what's going on while still creating those habits to get the lead gen done is challenging.
Yeah. It is challenging.
Yeah.
I love Gary Keller says success is what?
On the other side of, is it that one?
No,
Oh.
success is simple.
Simple.
Oh, not easy, okay.
Yeah.
Success is simple, not easy, right? So you're right. And I think we all face that challenge. It's learning to embrace the uncomfortableness and the challenge. And you're right. I think we can all relate to that. What's other feedback? How are your calls going inside of it?
My calls are going good. And my last class that I went to was Evans, and he talked about finding one thing to implement each day in our classes that we're in. So I have added that to my call sheet and my tracking sheet. So I added my thank you cards. I added my Facebook messaging. I added all of my Facebook contacts. The hard thing I'm having is the last one that I add is the hardest one to do because it's not a habit yet. So I haven't done really well with viewing, and that was the last one I added, was going out and viewing homes. But the first ones are doing better. So the ones I've already been doing, and I started last Monday, I'm in it.
What's really interesting about your takeaway, what you're saying? Is it okay if I ask you to
Yeah.
follow up to it?
Yep.
On Friday, we were at an event
Mhm.
and the first speaker actually talked 100% about what you just said.
Right.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
Cool.
it was really good. And I've been really intentional with what I'm trying to get done. I did it over the weekend. So I'm not just skipping days. I'm doing these things every single day. But like I said, the last thing I added was the viewing the homes, and I got home yesterday, and I have a reason, it's not a result, but it was my husband, today's my husband's birthday, and I'm leaving town. So I went home to be with him, and I got home and I went, I forgot to view homes, but he was more important, so I stayed home.
So you go back on Friday, our speaker was who?
Coach Perry.
Coach Perry, the football coach. And what Coach Perry had shared with a group of some of the top realtors in our, really in the area. And he said every day his goal is just to be 1% better. He said, every day I just want to be 1% better. And he's a big old boy with a big old personality. And he shared with us how really, he goes, if I can set out, have for 66 days and do this as every day, if I make this 1% better and I do this every day, it'll become a habit. And then it becomes harder not to do it. Anyways.
He also told us we'll never be elite, but it doesn't mean we can't strive for it. It's very honest, coach.
Yeah, it was great. So today we're really going to dive a little bit deeper into our database and how it affects our business. So your last class, your last session was about lead generation. We're going to take it to that next step and we're going to add another layer on top of it. And we're going to talk about how your database impacts your business. So before we dive into the bigger, the 4 laws, the first part we're going to talk about is like the big picture of it. And so by the end of today, really my goal would be, 3 things of what I would love to see for us is the first, like understanding like what information do we collect? What information are we trying to get? How are we going to tag them or segment them? Like, what are we going to do with it once we get it? Like, what do we get? What do we do with it? And then maybe how do we get referrals? I know sometimes these things seem simple or they might seem basic. And I tell you, even the Dan Holtz and the Adam Bradleys of this world right now are saying they're going back to the fundamentals or the basics. So just because it might be a fundamental principle, I don't ever want you to discount the importance of it. Does that make sense? What do you guys think about that? What are your thoughts about that comment?
I think if it works, it's for a reason. So it's worth always to keep the foundation. I'm saying like that.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I would think that with the way that the market had been, I mean, there were maybe some unrealistic conditions in the markets. Going back to the fundamentals helps you get back while it's shifting to what you know works.
Yeah, 100% actually. I love this class so much. Actually, I didn't necessarily choose this section, and I'm glad I did, because I think that this section is so fundamental for anybody. Like, it's simple, easy to understand, and it's just fundamental that we all need to never forget. So I think it's amazing. What is it that you guys would like out of this class today? What would your expectations be out of this class? I should play some Jeopardy music or something.
I personally like it when you go off script a little bit and give us more feedback on what works for you or examples of what truly works, because I don't know, that's more entertaining for me and I
Okay,
get more out of it.
so what I'm hearing you say is some real examples of how it's implemented, is that right? Okay,
Right. You're obviously successful enough, otherwise they wouldn't have chosen you to teach the class. So
Okay.
anything that tips and tricks.
okay, what else?
I think prospecting, like really getting into the nitty gritty of prospecting.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, I know we talk about Sphere and we talk about networking, but like really what does prospecting look like? And what should it look like?
Okay, so prospecting, what does that look like? Real examples.
Red Forks.
KW read, right?
Yep.
What else?
Maybe ways you connect with new people in your database that you find and add. A lot of what I do is talking to people that I don't know. So connecting with new database.
Okay, what else?
Follow up,
What's that?
follow up.
Follow up. Okay. So if at the end of this class, I cover the big picture, we cover the 4 laws of your database, which is kind of what I was saying, the fundamentals. And we talk about some real life examples. We talk about like, what does prospecting look like? And we talk about how to connect. And we talk about follow-up. Would this class be a success? So I'll come back to this later on just to make sure we've covered it. Some of this is actually for the next class, and I'll see what I can do to make sure we at least touch it. So does that sound good? Cool. We get a volunteer to read.
Your database is your business. Building up the number of names in it and a relationship with those names is really at the very core of what building a real estate business is all about.
Yeah, your business is your database. Without a database, you have no business. True story. I'll tell you a really funny story from Friday. You heard it on Friday. And so Dan and Adam were standing in front of the room telling stories. And Dan was one of Adam's clients before Dan was a realtor. And how Dan met him was actually through his dad, because his dad did business with Adam. And to this day, Dan's dad is still in Adam's database, and Adam still calls him and follows up with him. Because his dad is important to Adam. I just thought that was a really great example of like, why do we do what we do? Wasn't that interesting?
Yeah. I think we would all be afraid to do that. You know,
Yeah.
I'll call Chris Russell.
What do you think's the reason we would be afraid to do that? Actually, that's a really great.
I think I would be afraid that I would ruin a relationship, but I guess it's just how I enter into the relationship with Dan's dad.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
So I'm not going in trying to take Dan's dad's business away from Dan. I'm going in and telling Dan's dad that he's important to me. And that's what we should be doing, and we feel a little bit different when we're starting. Because we're just trying to get business.
100%. So what she just said, which I clearly agree, and I love what she said.
Yeah.
There are 2 words that come to mind, 2 separate words. What comes to your mind? Give me a word that comes to your mind.
Contribution?
Contribution. What's another word?
Was it that one?
No.
Oh.
What's another word? In the story she just told, she said,
I don't know. Relationships.
relationships. I love that.
Relationships every time.
Yeah,
know.
relationships.
I got a call from Jim Bolin Spire this morning, and she wants to list in Warsaw. We were not sure if Jim Bolin went out there, and I called Jim Bolin immediately. And we worked out a referral, and it's fine. But like just little things like that, the relationships.
Yeah, the relationships come from contribution. I was thinking of care and value, right? Like if you're coming from the fact that you care about them or you're bringing value to them, I don't know what there's to get upset about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so today we're going to start off and we're going to talk about the big picture. So before we can talk about a database, we need to talk about like, what is a database? Why do we use a database? Like, let's talk about some of the fundamentals first. So last session, we talked about lead generation. We come up with a lead. Now we've got the lead. What do we do with it? Leader contact. What do we do with it? So what is a database? Someone share with me. What do you think a database is?
Collection of people that you know or interact with.
Yeah. Collection of people that you know or interact with. What else? How else could you define a database?
Somewhere you store information about people that you met.
People that you met? Sure. Yeah.
The people you do business with and the people you want to do business with.
Okay. People that you do business with, people you want to do business with. Yep, I agree with that. Anything else? Not a trick question.
We're all wrong.
No, you're right. It's literally just it's a storage container of where we're going to keep the people that the leads and the contacts that we have, right? It's simply put, that's what it is. What do you think is the reason why we want to keep a database?
Keep track of everything because it's impossible to remember everything that you need to remember.
Yeah. Keep track of it. Anything else?
Well, to go a little further, to monitor results and see, track what you're doing so you can see the results or what you need or conversion or things like that. I can't think of the word I'm trying to use, but that's where I'm going.
Track your conversion or?
Well, everything. So you're tracking everything. So you've got a system to contact them and to determine, I guess that database doesn't do that. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll walk my way around that one.
Walk your way around. All right, well, we're gonna explore it a little bit more. A database is really just where we're gonna collect the information for the people, and it's gonna help us determine how we're gonna stay in communication with them, right? That's just the really short version. What's the difference between a lead and a contact?
Lead is somebody that has the intention to buy or sell. Contact is just somebody you know.
Okay. Anyone disagree with that? I'll go along with that. I might say a contact, I agree with you. I'm gonna add to it. I think a contact would be someone that I have a relationship, or I've earned the right to have a two-way conversation with you. Like a lead would just be, a lead could be, I have your information. A lead could be, we had a conversation one time and you have no idea who I am. That could be a lead. A contact is more of, I know Cassie and I know her husband, and I'm gonna call Cassie and I'm gonna have a conversation. And she's gonna know who I am when I call her. And like I could call her and we could have a good conversation because we know each other. Like that would be a contact. So contact is more of like the person that you have earned the right to have a conversation with. A lead is someone that maybe you don't know well that is looking to buy or sell in the future, potential client.
Could we symbolize that to Mets and not Mets? Like Met is your contact and not Met is your lead?
Could, other than the fact that for our purposes, a lead is someone also that potentially could, I guess, yes, you could, other than the fact that how you differentiate someone you haven't contacted you that. I guess depends where you got the information.
Okay.
Because, the answer is yes and no. A lead is technically someone that we believe is going to buy or sell in the future. That is technically a lead.
Okay.
We haven't really earned the right to have a two-way conversation with them yet, and we're working on that. I could get your name and phone number and put them in, and I don't know, I haven't had a conversation with you, know if you're looking to buy or sell. So. Now, in Ignite, our focus is really around sphere of influence. So a lot of our conversations are going to be around sphere of influence, mainly because when we look at the top agents, if you could have heard on Friday, Adam Grady tell the story of his team, and he's built this big database, and his primary job is actually to call the people inside of his database. And so he gets repeat referral. And I talk to agents from across the country where majority of their business just comes from a repeat referral, people that they know. Over the years, 75% of my business or higher, by the way, has come from my sphere or my database for the past 5 years. So 75% of all the business that I've done has come from that. So who could tell me inside of the model right here? I got it away. So looking at the model, where is your database represented? How about someone online? Where is the database represented in this model?
Leads and contact.
Okay. Is it at the top? Is it lead capture?
I think it's everything.
What do you guys think?
Yes, I think it's all of it.
You think it's all of it? Anyone else?
He does too, so.
Yeah.
It's this side of the room thing.
I
I'll
agree
come
with
over
them.
here. What?
I agree with them.
You agree with them? All right. Your database is your relationship management tool. Like, by the way, if you didn't write that down, please write that down. Your database is your relationship management tool. Like, if you get nothing else from this, I want you to remember your database is your relationship management tool. If they're important to you, they're in your database. Now, based on knowing that, where in the model does your database, where is it represented? This right here, right? That's your database. So we're going to lead generate, we're gonna find our leads, we're gonna get them in here, we're going to have relationships with them, we're gonna put our systems in place, and then we're gonna get down here, we're gonna get repeat referrals, right? So what are your thoughts around this model when you look at it? What stands out to you? Well, I'll help you out. So when you have your database here, like it's gonna help keep you organized. Your database is gonna help you create like to-do lists and tasks inside of this. Your database is, I mean, in all honesty, if someday you ever want to retire, you can actually sell your database. Like when it's built out, if it's built out effectively, it's worth something monetarily. Do you guys know that?
No.
Yeah. Kind of interesting. What are your thoughts about that? One day you build this amazing big database, you've got 30,000 people in it, and you can sell it. You know, you think about like if a big team were to sell, what would they be selling? Like if a big team, let's just say Adam Grady decided to sell his business, what would he be selling?
Information.
He would be selling his systems and his database. Like think about that. That's what he would be selling is his systems and his database.
That's effectively made him what he is.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really what you're building. So that's why when Gary says your database is your business, like we look at someone to the scale of Adam or Dan, what would they sell? They would be selling their systems that they put in place and they would be selling their database. Or Lyndon Keats, I see Lyndon Keats cert, yeah. So same thing applies. What's command?
CMA.
Is our database, what else is command?
Rolodex.
Rolodex, yep, what else?
It's our integrated end-to-end cloud.
Killer Cloud.
Yes, and what else?
It's the way that we communicate with our clients. It's the way that we keep up with our client, our leads. It's the way we systemize what we do.
Has anyone ever set goals inside of command? Yeah, so it's a goal tracker. You can set task up, right? So it's kind of a task management. Has anyone gotten referrals through command yet?
Yes.
A couple people, so you can get referrals through it. So it's more, I just wanted to point out, it's more than just a database, which obviously, as Cassie was reading. All right, so the 4 laws of what we're going to cover today. These 4 laws, I would say, if I were sitting in the class, what I would do with these 4 laws is I would take either a picture of it, like whatever you have on your piece of paper, or I would write it out. I would tape it next to my computer. I would put it on my wall. I would look at it every single day. Like it is that important. Build your database, feed it every day, communicate with it systematically, and service all the leads. The 4 laws of a database. Now we're going to go into detail on each one of these. Yet just know, like, it is so important that if I were in your shoes, if I were starting all over, honestly, if my focus were production right now today, that's exactly what I would be doing. Because I would have this posted on the wall next to my computer, and I would read it every day. So I'm going to pause for just a second. I'm not looking for a lot of comments, not looking for, we don't have to have a lot of discussion. We're going to pause so often to make sure we ground our thoughts. So whenever someone asks for takeaways or ahas, it's trying to ground, it's not trying, it is grounding a thought that you have. And sometimes the takeaway that you might have might be from someone else's comment, because we're all different, right? So far, what is a takeaway, or maybe a question? What's one thing that you could say, this was interesting, this really stands out to me? It could be something you've already known and were reminded of, or maybe it's something new. Anybody?
I think the 4 laws were pretty interesting, you know, because I feel like I personally just pick and choose and not service all of them.
It's good. Okay, what's one more? Thank you for that. Anyone have anything else to pull out of first session? Anybody? Okay,
Well,
please, no, please, yeah.
we talk about leads all the time. And I think it's interesting that every time you have somebody define a lead, it's different. It doesn't seem like there's definity around what a lead is.
You know what, that is really great feedback. Thank you for that. How about I share with you what I personally use as a definition? Is that?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay, this is exactly, so something that Shanna didn't mention. I'm a MAPS coach. I coach about 30 agents from across the country. And this is the system I personally use religiously. A lead, well, what's the difference in your lead pipeline and your database? So you're looking for the real life examples. Here it is. I was pointed out. What's the difference in your lead pipeline and your database? Do you know?
Wasn't your lead pipeline, the people that are actually in there, they're ready to buy within how many days? And no,
Is the lead pipeline what's coming in to generate your database?
Either.
Love the conversation. So
you think you're so wrong.
No. I think this is a great conversation. It's yes and. It's a yes and. So to me, a lead pipeline is my potential future business. So I personally actually have identified everybody that could buy or sell. So my criteria, do I know their timeline? So for me, do I know their timeline? Is there opportunity for me to do business with them? Do I know their motivation? Like, those are the things. Are they pre-qualified? Are they working on getting pre-qualified? Do they own their house? Could they sell it? Like, those are the things I'm looking at, but a lead is a potential future business and your database is your relationships. Now, your leads will still be in your database. So I'm not saying they won't be. I'm just saying we're going to identify the people that could be future business and we're going to call them a lead. Because I know that it's going to take a lot more leads to do, like if I had a goal to do 100 transactions, like it's probably going to, in all reality, it's probably going to take me 1,000 leads. If I want to do 100 transactions, I probably would have to come up with 1,000 leads. It's a lot, right? So I need to identify who are the potential future business. So for me, that's how I identify it. Is that helpful? Is that better if it was a real life example?
When you say future, do you put a timeline on that? Or is it indefinite?
You know, it's a really great question. I'll tell you what I do is I look 18 months out. Actually, I got that from Jen. So I would love to say I came up with it. I got that from Jen Davis. So I think years and years ago, I think Jen told me that she tracked her leads 18 months out. And I was like, oh, that's genius. I should do that. So on my lead pipeline, I identify them 18 months out. So if they're farther than that, I might still have them tagged as a lead in some form or fashion. Yet the one I'm really working are the ones 18 months and less. So, all right, so today, like I said, we're going to cover building your database, feeding it, communicating with it, and servicing your database. Law 1, building your database. So just like the minimal amount of information, you want to always get Like I would even say, if you have a database started, go back and get this information. You want their name, their phone number and email address, their mailing address or personal address, what their home is. And if they're a past client, or if they've done business with you. Bare minimum information you want to get is that from everybody in your database. Name, phone number, email address, mailing address, or their personal home address, and are they a past client? So besides that, what are some other things you would want to know from them? What are some other things you want to get?
Birthdays, kids, relationships,
Anniversaries.
Anniversaries, what else?
career.
Yeah, where do they work?
Pets,
Pets.
anything you could talk to them about in the future.
I love that. Last class, did you guys go over the Ford?
Yeah.
We have.
Family,
What was it?
family, occupation, risk, recreation, dreams.
Yep. I would ask those questions and maybe get that. That's a good thing to get. By the way, if it sounds simple, and if you didn't write that down, I would make sure you write down some of those things. Because look forward and you're going to reference back to a class, you might be having a conversation with someone, you're going to say, we talked about that. I don't remember what someone said. I would take the opportunity to write those things down. So I want to make sure we're moving at the speed of what this class wants to move. With that being said, have you guys entered something into the database before? Have you entered a lead, or do you guys want me to do one with you? Or is everyone, okay. How about this? Raise your hand if you've never seen a lead entered before. It's okay. I'll do it after the class and help you with it if you want to. Okay, no, all right. Well, that makes it easy then. So Command makes it easy because if you have, there's just a button at the top that says add lead. You can manually enter them. You can sync your devices. You can import your database. Has everyone taken advantage of Market Center helping you with that? You're not taking that opportunity yet? Okay. So you guys that have, I believe Nicole offers to help import your database, right? You guys have done it? So if you haven't, reach out to Nicole or Shannon. The Market Center can help you to sync your devices and import your phone and your email address and help get your database up and going. It's a lot easier than doing it manually. Okay. So, and if you need help, I can help you too. Okay. They're probably a little more tech savvy than me, and they'll help you with it. So this slide's going to come up a couple of times through here. I would say if it's not in your handbook, snap a quick picture of it, because at any point in time, if you have questions on anything throughout Ignite, something comes up and you're like, how do you do that? Like we just talked about entering something into Command. If you go to Connect and you go to Command your database, it will walk you through on how to do it. So I would take a picture of this, reference it. So each section is actually going to reference this, because you can go to Connect, Command your database, go to the section, and it'll walk you through step by step on how to do it. All right, give me another takeaway. One more, then we'll move on. Anyone online?
I like the 18 months out rule
Okay,
that you mentioned.
I like that. Yeah, that's what I do. It's not in the material, it's just what I do. Anyone else? Let's see if I can pull it back. Sorry, yes, I can, I'm now seeing your chat, so there were a couple people that said they wanted to ask questions a while ago. And yes, you can, I can see it now. Apologize, I didn't see it before, so. So if you have questions online or you wanted to make a comment, I can see your comments on Facebook or on Zoom, so. Cool. Oh, I missed a step again. There we go. All right, so the second law we're gonna go over is feeding your database. So what's the difference between prospecting and marketing?
Prospecting is more direct, marketing is for everyone.
Okay. More direct and what?
Just general marketing is like an ad to me.
Okay. Yes, and what's another, you are right, what's something else? What's another difference between the two?
I'd say the prospecting is like where and marketing is like how. So prospecting is where you're gonna do it and marketing is like how you're going to do it.
Prospecting is typically free, it's conversations, it's what you're doing, and marketing is typically what you're paying to have some sort of advertisement or product made to distribute or brand.
Yeah, I agree with all of those things. What else?
I think prospecting, when you go reach out to someone, and marketing is when they reach out to you.
Hey, you know what, and just to summarize it, you are right. The prospecting is something, it's active, you have control over the results a little bit more. You can interact with the prospecting. So prospecting might be making phone calls. The marketing is a little bit more passive or inactive. We have less control over the results. So just keep in mind, you know, Gary in the MRA says to be prospecting based, marketing enhanced, right? So prospecting based, marketing enhanced. That was something that's really stuck out to me because, let's be honest, marketing is so much more fun. Who enjoys prospecting more than marketing? Right? Like it's nobody. So marketing is just so much more fun. So, and remember, if we really want to own our goals, we have to learn to prospect because prospecting is where we have control over it. So it's more active. So what does it mean? What does it mean to you to feed your database? When you hear feed your database.
Add new people.
Yeah. Anything else?
Interact.
Build relationships.
Build, okay. Yeah, build your database. Anything else? What's over here?
Love on the people that are in it.
Okay. So when I hear feed your database, I'm hearing, I want to be intentional through either prospecting or marketing, putting people in it, right? And we'll go over like some ways. And I know their last session was about lead generation, and that's really what that was about. So we're going to go over a couple of additional things for how to put people into how to feed your database, which really, hey, what's the success system that's associated with it, by the way?
The 10-4.
To add 10 people to your database every day, right?
Yeah.
So we're supposed to feed it every day. So what's and I think this might have been mentioned before, what's the most cost-effective way to feed your database? Cost-effective.
Buying leads.
Call somebody, message them, have a conversation.
Yeah, it's free to call someone, right? Or to just ask somebody that you know. It's like you're looking for ways to grow your business and you don't have a lot of money in the beginning to do it. What's free? And ironically, what's actually the most effective? Your database. It's funny, you know, it's really interesting because in the beginning, and I remember being in the beginning and this being the case of, it was easier to spend money. I'm like, oh, if I go and do this and I spend money over here, I can get these leads and all, this is what all the teams are doing, you know? And then the funny thing is you look at the big teams and they're like, how do we get back to just our sphere? Like, it's funny when in the beginning, we're like, oh, how do we pay for all these things? And then when you get to be the Adam Grady's and the Dane Holtz, they're like, how do we just lean into our sphere? So it's funny how that works. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Have you guys seen that? Have you experienced that? Maybe, I don't know. Or is it just Jason? Maybe it's just me. It's just me?
No, I agree.
Okay, cool. I was like, all right, leave me hanging out here. So. What's this at the bottom? Who could explain that to me?
Form a relationship with them and learn about them. And like you said before, when you have a contact, you've earned the right to communicate with them and have a two-way conversation.
So kind of, so we talked about this middle being the relationship management. And this down here is really your client referral loop. And so let me get to the other side so everyone can see me. So your client referral loop, so you get new business and you're working with the client, you ask them for a referral in some form or fashion. Either they do business with you again, or they give you a referral, they go back to your database, you get a new client, just the loop, right? Just becomes the loop. You are right, and I was adding to it, so. You know what's funny is, like, our sphere, like, they want to help us, right? They like you, they trust you. I guess unless they don't like you, maybe. Assuming they like you, right? They want to help you get started. You guys ever had a family member or a family friend that's like, hey, whatever I do to help you get started in your business? Anyone ever said that to you?
I literally had a friend the other day, he'd given me 2 leads and he's like, I wish I had more. And I'm like, thanks, man.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll give you another real world example. So I love that. Who's a football fan? All right, a couple of you in here. All right, other than Cassie, because she's heard me say this before, you can't answer.
Okay.
In football, who is the 12th man on the field?
The fans.
Okay, say that out loud.
The fans.
The fans. Okay, tell me more about that. What makes the fans the 12th man on the field?
They can make it so loud to where the other team can't hear.
They get energy from them. You get momentum.
What's the Chiefs Stadium known for?
Noise.
Being the loudest stadium in the NFL, right? Does the Chiefs, do they have a better record at home or away? Why?
Support.
12th man on the field. They're raving fans. Like, who are your raving fans? Like, think about that. Like, you just told a story of a raving fan. Like, who are your raving fans that want to help you get started? Because they do exist. Like your mom, I don't know. I know for Cassie, it's her husband. Her husband loves her so much, they have just the cutest relationship. Okay, so how do we make sure that our sphere gives us referrals?
Yeah, ask for it.
You're right, 100%. What's another way that we can make sure that our sphere gives us referrals?
Serve them. Serve them.
Okay, serve them. Yeah, I'll go along with that.
You do a good job.
Okay, good customer service. I agree. What's another way?
Keep
Make
constantly.
sure doing.
Like, what was that?
Make sure they know what you're doing.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Like making it known that you're a new agent and just like basically telling them that like, hey, I'm doing this new thing. Like if there's anybody that you know that would like to support me or anything like that, just, you know, making it known that you're an agent and you're looking for business.
Yeah, I'm going to add to what they just said. So by the way, write these down. So these are really important. I know they seem basic. They're so important. We have to ask for it, right? We have to explain to them how it helps you. right? I think that's what I was hearing right there was, we have to let them know, hey, this is what we're looking for, this is how it helps me. Because they want to help you. We have to explain to them, how do they give you a referral? You know, Cassie, if you do happen to come across someone that is like you, that's a good person, that, you know, is a family, kind of just like us, that's looking to buy or sell in the next 6 to 12 months, you know, I would love it if maybe you could just reach out to me and give me their information and I could just call them and introduce myself. Would that be okay?
That would be great.
Like in that, I told her, I explained to her how to give me the referral. And that doesn't have to be how I did it there. I'm just saying that was the example of, I gave her the instructions, how do you give me the referral? Because, hey, if you think of someone, let me know. Let's be more in detail about that, because that's not really detailed enough. Do they really understand, what do I do with it? Do I call them and tell them to call you? Do I call you? Like, what do I do? So we have to explain to them, what do we do? And by the way, don't make assumptions. If we make assumptions, it might happen, it might not happen. We want to take control over our career. Okay, now they've given you the referral, then what do? You've got to make sure you thank them. So thank them either verbally, send them a thank you card, a gift, some way. You got to make sure you thank them. I'll give a silly example, you know, like I always think of like Pavlov's dog. You got to like reward the behavior you want to see more of. Or my kid, you know, like cleaning the room for the first time in the year. I'm going to take him on first day dinner, like whatever, like reward the behavior you want to see more of. So you've got to make sure to show your gratitudes. Here are a couple of other ways to feed your database besides what we talked about before. So who in here, raise your hand, if you have someone that, if you were to call them today, that they think highly enough of you that they would actually give you a recommendation or a referral. They would say something positive about you. Half the people in this room, okay. I don't believe you. I think everybody in this room has somebody. All right, so getting a testimonial, getting a review are two other ways to feed your database. So let's just say you do get a referral, or I'm sorry, a review. What do you do with it?
Post it.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Well, I put it on Facebook. I talk about how grateful I am to clients that give me the opportunity to serve them. Make sure it's on Google. I want people to know that people like what I did.
100% agree with you. What's something else? Yeah. of course.
Okay.
What's something else?
Okay.
On your website. Put it in your listing presentation. Put it in your buyer's presentation. Here's what other people have said about me, about us, when they were working with us. Now, there's one other way, and I'm just briefly going to mention this so you know it exists, but we're not going to spend our time there. Another way to feed your database besides the things we've mentioned, this is a little bit marketing. It's opt-in. So there are ways to opt in. Like if you've ever ran a Facebook or a command ad and they had to give you their contact information to see a house or something, that's an opt-in. That's one way to feed your database. So just know it exists. There are other conversations for how we do that and growing that. Just note that that is another form as opting in. So some type of Facebook ad or, you know, I've actually seen, well, actually I ran one that was the 7 ways that sellers get the most money out of their house when they sell. And to get a copy of it, you had to give me your contact information. So that was a Facebook ad I ran. And so then guess who's going to be requesting that? Sellers. So I was feeding my database and then that gave me someone to call. So that was one of mine. And I did actually send them something. So I'm thinking just in the ad. So. So here's what I'd like to do. So we've got 2, 3, 5, 6. All right, so there's a little over 12 of us now. But how about this? Let's just do it as a group. What are other ways you can get a review or testimony? Like, let's be specific. Like, how can you ask for a review or testimony? What are things you would say you would ask for? So example being responsiveness, attention to detail, professionalism, empathy, clear communication. What's something else? What are some other things?
Reliable.
Yeah. Okay, what else?
Negotiating well for the client to help them get the best deal or the best price for their home.
Okay, love that. What else?
Availability.
Okay, availability. What else?
Knowledge,
Knowledge.
market knowledge.
Love that, market knowledge. Let me ask you this. So how would you ask for a review or a testimony, and specifically for one of these things?
Maybe like a handwritten note or something like that, sending them a direct message, asking them,
Could be. What's another way?
call them.
Created like a survey thing, and then have them fill it out, and then whatever and you can put on there like responsiveness, attention, detail, empathy, and all that. And if they check mark those, ask them if they wouldn't mind writing a review based on those things.
Okay, love that. What's another idea? It's really creative. I like that. How about this side of the room? Bueller.
They don't know that.
They said everything.
They said everything. All right. So if I were gonna ask for a review or a testimony, and I was wanting something specific, let's say, how about this? You guys pick which one. You guys pick which one. Empathy. I knew you were gonna pick that.
That seemed like it was the hardest one.
Yeah, thank you for that.
No problem.
If I were gonna do it, I would probably call you. And I might say, Mindy, right?
Yep.
Okay. I might call and I'd say, hey, Mindy, this is Jason over at the Massey Group. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Oh, awesome. How's your family?
They're doing really well. So busy.
Oh, I love to hear that. Love to hear that. Hey, do you have just 2 minutes if I make it really quick?
Oh, for sure.
Awesome. In 2023, I'm really making it a goal. I've really done this probably by not even trying in the past. And this year, I want to be really intentional with being empathetic with my clients' needs and where they're at. So they really know that I understand their situation. And I was reaching out to some of my past clients to see if you would feel comfortable and give me a testimony, because I want the people that I work with in this year to really know that's my focus. Would that be something you'd be willing to do for me?
Yeah, for sure. So what specifically are you wanting? Just a paragraph? You want me to send you an email, or how would you like me to get that to you?
I tell you what, I can send you a link, or if you want to send me an email and I can put it on there for you, either way, it'd be just fine.
Oh, yeah, sure. That'd be great.
All right, so what do you guys think of how I asked for that?
Great.
Super good.
Super good.
Super.
Yeah.
You were super.
Do you see how I was really intentional with the word though?
Yep.
What's this side of the room think?
Really good.
The quiet rooms, I give you thumbs up, right?
Super good.
Oh,
Well,
goodness.
it's interesting. You could actually use that script with any one of those words. any of it. You're just basically telling them, hey, this is the message I am trying to get out to my future business or to grow my business. And probably I'm going to use the word empathy in my, I mean, you fed it to me.
I did, right?
Now in my brain. Yeah, he's really empathetic. Woo.
Yeah. And I actually defined it to you. Did you catch that, by the way? I defined the
Yeah.
word. I gave you the word and I defined it. Because I knew that was gonna be a tough one, because not everybody uses that word the same. So I knew I needed to find some way for you to understand what I was saying. Yeah, so. Any other words you can think of that you would want to try to get referrals or testimonies from? I know if I were doing it today, I would probably want, I would want to make sure I'm getting testimonies to say, and I'm going to piggyback on what Cassie said, that my business is specifically Nixa, so I want them to say my unique knowledge of the area for Nixa, or my differentiating knowledge of Nixa. I might be really specific on that, or I might say, really the power of negotiating skills, you know, or, and I might give an example when I call them or something.
Like market knowledge or something of that nature would be another kind of selling.
Yeah.
Thing.
Market knowledge. I personally, if it were me, I would be a little bit specific with it. So like for me, I said I would want Nixa, like not just
Right.
all, I would be Nixa.
Yeah.
Or I might say, when you say market knowledge, do you mean, are you looking for buyers or sellers?
Well, honestly, it could go either way, but what I was getting at more is, I would love for my clients, whether they're buyers or sellers, to feel confident that the knowledge that I'm giving them is accurate. And that I know what I'm talking about. And so
How does that help them?
it gives them confidence
To do what?
to make a decision.
So your unique knowledge of the market helps your clients make good and right decisions when buying.
Good and educated, yep, yeah.
Love that. Okay, so here's my challenge to you. So we have more, we're not done, and this is my first challenge for you. On a piece of paper, write down 5 people that if you, when we're done with class today, you're going to call them, 5 people, and you're going to ask them to send you a testimony, review, 5 people. We just remember how easy it was. Who are 5 people you can call today after class and ask them for a review or a referral. Let me ask you this. What if you haven't closed the deal yet? What if you've closed 1? What if you closed 2? How do you still ask for a review or testimony? I don't know in this room who's in that vote. Let's just put it out there. How do you still get a review?
You could ask anybody to comment on those things. It didn't have to be within a transaction.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. Mindy, the reason why I was calling you is I want to be very intentional this year with the people that I work with in my new career, for them to really understand my character of who I am. And I thought I would reach out to you and see if you would care to give me a testimony or a review and really my my professionalism in everything that I do. Would that be something you'd feel comfortable helping me out with? I just said it doesn't have to be a past client. Those are the best. And if you don't have those, that's okay too. Just find someone that knows you really well that'll say something nice about you. And if you get one and you're like, that one doesn't work to my narrative, don't use it. All right, so let's pause for a moment. What's a takeaway? One thing you took away from that section.
How you explain the referrals, how it works, how to address them. Just, yeah, I like that a lot.
Okay, what's another one? Are you referencing like the actual role play I did
Uh,
or the explaining how you get it?
so basically how you get it and explaining how it helps you as a real estate agent. Just the way you explained it, yeah.
Good. Okay. Now to reiterate, what are we gonna do when we get the referrals? Or I mean, the reviews and testimonies, what are we gonna do with them?
Thank you.
Thank them, and then what?
Post them.
Post them on social media,
Put them on in our marketing folders and.
put them on your website,
Everywhere.
from everywhere. Yep. Any other takeaways in that section?
I have a question for you.
Please.
Do you always ask for a specific area on your testimony, when you're asking for a testimony or
Don't have to. You don't have to. Honestly, it's completely up to you. It's just you want to direct the narrative to the review you're gonna get.
yeah. I guess the reason I ask it, I feel like if I left it open-ended, I might get more honest feedback that I could actually implement to figure out what I'm not doing for people. What is nobody mentioning that I've done for them?
You know, I love that. There is a Keller Williams class called, I think it's called customer service, actually. And one of the processes it teaches in there is for every deal you do, you should do 4 calls to ask, how am I doing? And the last one being 30 days afterwards. And having a preset questions where, okay, we're always striving to get better. What's one thing that we did really well, and what's one thing that maybe we could improve upon in the future?
Yeah, I like that.
What's one thing that you really enjoyed about working with us? What's maybe one thing that if we could improve on it, then would improve our customer service for the next person or next time you buy or sell? So whatever that looks like. And in that class, it says, when you first go under contract, ask them, when you first agree to work together, go under contract, close, and then 30 days after close. And it's best if you do it by phone call. I remember listening to an agent out of Austin, Texas, Tim Heil, really big agent like Dan Holton's, right? And he himself is the one that makes all the calls for this right here. Because he goes, if it went well, they're gonna tell me why it went well. And they're gonna reiterate to themselves why I'm so great. If it didn't go well, they know that I care to make things better, and I'm gonna have an opportunity to maybe salvage the relationship. And then I'm also gonna make sure that I improve my systems every time. And he said, when I asked him what his biggest challenge was with implementing that, it actually, he said, was in getting people to tell me what didn't go well. He said, because they didn't want to hurt my feelings. And so he goes, when I would call them and ask them, they would say, oh, it was great. He goes, man, I sure appreciate, you saying that. And I know you mean that. And if there were something that maybe even if it's small that we could do to get better, what would that be? He goes, I just didn't let up because I know there's something. They're just being polite. That answer your question? All right, so the next section is communicating with your database. So we talked about building your database, we talked about feeding your database. Now we're going to talk about communicating with the database. So keep in mind a couple of things, and we don't go too in depth here yet. I just want to make sure and reiterate these things. So when we talk about communicating, this is probably your like your touches. We want to make sure we always come from value. We want to make sure that it's meaningful. Make sure it's relevant. Like make sure it's timely. Like those are the things. The value is the most important thing I want you to get out of that. And I know we said it earlier. Just remember, you've always got to come from value. So can I get someone to read? How about someone on this side of the room? Anybody?
I'll read it.
Thank you.
To succeed at a high level in real estate sales, you must commit to frequent contact with a database with the intent of building close relationships.
You must commit to frequent contact with your database. How long must you commit?
Forever. I'm sorry, it's like a forever. Always and ever.
You're 100% right. Yeah. Once you Well, I mean, it's just like your friends, right? Like if you have a good friend, how long are you gonna stay friends with them? Just till they give you money? Like, it's not a relationship, right? Okay, so we're gonna talk about in this section, like, how do we get really specific and categorize them? How do we put them into segments? And really, like, you think about the people inside your database. If you're gonna talk to them, send them stuff, like the stuff that they remember, the stuff that actually be impactful is gonna be specific to them. So then the question becomes, how do we make it specific to them, right? How do we put them into these categories, or how do we differentiate the people? How do we determine who's gonna get what? So that's really kind of the purpose of this part. And of course, when we figure that out, what are we gonna do with it? Tag, right? What are some ideas? What are some ideas for some tags? Or some different segments you could put people in?
First time buyer.
First time buyer, what's another one?
Pets, I feel like pets.
Pets, yeah, what's another one?
Hobbies, I do a lot of photography and stuff, so.
Hobbies, yeah, what's another one?
Veteran
Veteran, okay, love that.
and first responder.
First responder, yep.
Mentor,
Renter, that's a good one.
investor,
Investor. Homeowner. What's another one?
Maybe they're a gardener or something. Who knows?
Okay, yeah. Gardener, what's another one?
Open houses.
Open house, okay, so how you met them, yeah, that's good. I know for me, like I did VIPs. Now you can come up with your own definitions inside of that, and I did a VIP, so they say a VIP was someone that did business with me and gave me a referral, so. And that's whatever you guys choose, that was just me, so. Anything else? Okay. So you could have more than one per person. As an example, so if you had me in your database, like you could say, Jason lives in Nixa. It could be a segment. Could area specific. I own my home. I'm a business owner. I'm an investor. I have kids. So, I mean, I could go on and on. Like, so there's really quickly, I have 5 different segments I could be in. So each person might have more than one segment. And remember, like, this is going to be evolving. It's never going to be complete. And you're always going to find some way, because you know, people change, right? And your relationships get deeper. So don't have the mentality that it's perfect, because it will never be perfect. And you're always going to find some way to change it, or something's going to change inside of it. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? Okay. So when we talk about communicating with them, so like this example is the individual is a golfer, an investor, and a dog lover. So we want to find some ways to make the communication impactful to them, right? Because if they're a golfer and we send them a review of golf courses, that's a subject matter they're interested in, right? Now, if you're doing it for one person, it seems like a lot. If you have 100 people in your database and all of them are golfers and you've identified that, sending that out doesn't seem like it's as big of a deal. If you have 10,000 people that are golfers, doesn't seem like it's as big of a deal. It seems more important to do it, right? So we want to find out, how do we find something about them that means something to them? And then we're going to customize a message to them. So like in this example, one of them is about golf, the other one's about market stats, and then this last one's about dogs. So those are some examples of newsletters you could send them. Now, every communication is gonna have one thing in common, and it doesn't have to be the exact same thing, yet there's gonna be a common theme that's gotta be attached. So I send this newsletter out. I'm gonna have a custom to them where it's about golf, investor, or dog lover. And then I've gotta find some way to either find out if they're looking to buy or sell, to let them know who I am and why people should use me as a realtor. There's gonna be some business aspect to it as well. So I'm gonna have a balance between something that means something to them and, oh, hey, by the way, if you know of anyone looking to buy or sell or whatever your thing is. I know like a lot of the ones I've done in the past, we would either have a link to our website at the bottom, we would have testimonials at the bottom, we would tell a success story from a client or things like that. So we've got to make sure we got both of those in there. And later on, we're going to talk about your touch campaigns. So this will be a future class where you're going to talk about the 19 to connect and the 36 to convert. So when you go into those more in detail, they're going to help you put those together. Just for right now, just know that when you do these messages, you're going to have a combination of the two. What's important for today, though, probably one of the most important things you're going to get out of today, one of the most important things, if you walk away with anything, it's this right here. If there's anything at all you could walk away with, it's this right here. This one to cement applies in so many different ways. I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to an agent and their biggest struggle is, I know these people and I'm struggling to cement a relationship. So really, like, this has got to be a high value touch. This sets the groundwork for everything that we do. What are your thoughts about this so far?
What's a high value touch?
Ooh, good question. What would be a point of value to them? Let's just brainstorm. What are some points of value to them? There's no right or wrong to it, by the way.
I mean, if there's something that can improve their life in some way, whether it's financially, quality, whatever.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, what's another thing?
If you were providing some sort of event and inviting them to participate in that.
Love that. So events. By the way, do you have to be the one hosting the event?
Nope.
Okay. So it could just be a community event, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, what else?
Just providing information in general. Like some people want to know what their house is worth, even though they're not really thinking about selling it. That could be something you could offer to do.
Yeah, so market stats or neighborhood stats or yeah. Something else. There's more we could go into. Something else.
About lender programs, like there are specific programs for first responders and teachers and veterans.
That's good.
There's banks that waive fees for veterans
Yeah.
and you gotta know those. So if I have a client that's a veteran, I'm like, have you talked to this lender? Because it's could save you like literally hundreds of dollars because they're gonna waive your closing fees.
Yeah, that's true. What's something else?
Could it be as simple as just asking them about their family and their kids? Is that high value enough or not so much?
It has to be a value you're going to give them. So if we were, I'm gonna give an example. If we just met at an open house, and I know we have a storm coming in, a snowstorm coming in next week, I could then send you an email that just says, hey, it was so great to meet you, Mindy. I'm so excited for you and your family for your next steps. hey, by the way, I know that you're a little ways out to selling your house. And I just wanted to make sure I send this out because I'm sending it out to all my friends and clients, is that make sure a reminder to unhook your water hose or whatever the case may be, springtime and it's time to check your air conditioning unit, whatever the case would be, like something like that, that would be a point of value, because what happens if they leave their water hose attached? It freezes. I had rental houses where the renters did that. It was fun. So does that make sense? What are your thoughts? Any additional thoughts?
No, I feel like I like it completely, but I feel like it just added a whole level of stress to me trying to figure out what is value to my customer, to my database, my clients, or I guess not my clients, my would-be clients. Like, what is valuable?
You know, and you know what? I'm glad you feel that way because it's that important. I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Right.
Like, if there were one thing that I could leave with you today is how important this is. Even so much so, I know this was the previous course you went through with Mark. If I'm making calls, I've already thought of value I can give to you before I make that call. Like I've already thought in my head that if you say you have kids, I've already thought of an event I'm going to tell you about. Or if you say you have pets, I've already thought of something that I can share with you. I've already pre-thought the value I'm going to give you. So for me personally, and I'm making that call, even if I'm cold calling, by the way, I've already pre-thought of how I'm going to do this.
Okay, how are you gonna deliver your cold call?
Okay, would you be surprised if I told you that when I cold call, I get more referrals than appointments?
No.
Does that blow your mind? Cassie, it was so great to talk to you today. And man, it sounds like you have some really cool things going on with you. And I have so much respect for your husband and his long career in the police force and your kids with the football program. And just, man, it's so interesting. Thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to me today.
You're welcome.
Hey, before I get off the phone, you know, I know you said that you are just a raving fan of the Nixa community and your kids graduated there. Are you familiar with the big gala that's getting ready to happen?
No.
Oh, yeah, man, it is so cool. So the chamber puts on this big gala in January that's really kind of like a celebration for the city of Nixa. I know the tickets just came on sale for that. If you'd like, I could actually send you an email with all that information. Would that be something you'd want me to do?
Sure.
Awesome. What's your email address?
Okay. Oh my God.
What? What? What do you think?
No, it's good.
What were you thinking?
Oh, no, it just comes out so easy because you've practiced for so, you know what you're doing. And for me, it's just, wow. You heard me.
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm just really intentional with
Your
this.
idea, not what you said, but your idea is there. Your idea is submitted of what you want to get across.
I could have ran into you in the grocery store.
Right.
And we had a conversation and I would have said that.
Yeah.
Like I have a handful of them in my head at all times that I know if I run into someone, I'm gonna find some point of value to give you because I know that's how it's gonna cement my relationship with you. Nobody wants to be in a relationship with someone that's selfish, right?
Right.
Who in here has kids? Okay, me too. And I don't know if I'm the only one, but sometimes my kids are really selfish, right?
They sure are.
Like sometimes I'm like, dude, we just had an hour-long conversation where you complained about everything and none of them were bad. Like you think it was the worst day ever. You didn't even ask how your mom's doing. You didn't ask how your siblings doing. You demanded dinner. You didn't ask, could I do anything for you? I mean, like, I love my kids. So I'm joking a little bit. Yet, like, do you see like in that relationship, it's someone's just taking the energy. Like people will want to be in a relationship with people that care about them. how did it make you feel when I acknowledged who you and your husband are? And then I actually like connected it with something that was important to you.
Really good.
But even though we might have just met, like we already have a connection.
Right.
Like I cemented this. One of my favorite examples, I was cold calling, called this lady. I had like a 20-minute conversation with this older lady. And at the end of the conversation, come to find out she couldn't even, she wanted to sell her house. She didn't have the ability to. She was so sweet. I bet I talked to her for a year on and off. One day, her neighbor calls me. The neighbor calls me. I never did business with this lady. Never did business with her. And he goes, my neighbor says you were like the nicest real estate agent and you're the only person to talk to. I went out there, I sold his house, I sold some land for him. I never sold the lady of the house. I met her, I was circle dialing and then I just stayed in touch with her. That was it. I love old people. Nothing to say. So going back, most valuable thing out of all of today is that. If you have one thing, have that. Okay. So what happens to you lead generate, you capture the lead, you feed your database, you add value to them consistently? What's going to happen? Not a trick question.
They're gonna like you, they'll eventually do business with you or send you business.
Yeah, they're eventually going to do business with you or refer you business, right? So what happens if you lead generate, you feed the database, and you don't add value to them consistently? You'll be broke. You wasted your time lead generating. Right? Ouch. I only got an ouch on that one. What's the most important form of communication you can have with them?
Face to face.
Okay, yeah, I'll say face-to-face or a phone call. Like some type of a personal connection. Face-to-face is always wins, yes. Agree with you. I think that's where this helps so much. So we have the reminders, stay in touch with people. That's why databases, it's a relationship management tool. So it just helps us stay in relationship with them. Okay, what would be some takeaways?
This isn't even anything you said, but it just, I don't know, it's hitting me on the head. There is a guy who's super new to pickleball and the group and the community.
Super excited where this is going.
Yeah, well, he comes in the first day and he introduced himself to me, he met me. He came in the second day, he immediately, like, when he saw me, smile on his face, hey, Mindy, how are you today? Is your brother gonna be coming? He remembered like 3 pieces of information about me, and I was like, talking to somebody else later, like, oh my gosh, have you met this Brian guy? He's so nice. And he's like, oh my gosh, Brian's like the nicest. So there was like 4 or 5 of us all talking about how nice this Brian guy is, who's been in pickleball for like 3 days, and everybody knows him. But he remembers our names. He remembers what we do. I wish I had that ability, but it just made us all feel like we'd known him forever. And he's the first person you're gonna call now if you're looking for somebody to play pickleball with.
That's really great insight. And it's so true. Because when you remember something about someone else, it makes them feel special.
It does.
It was like you took the time to pay attention. You know who's actually really great about that in this office? Sheena. She has like this superpower, like she does. Shayna's really good at it. But yeah, it makes you feel special. So what's another takeaway I'll haul so far? One more.
I'll say cement the relationship even in cold calling.
Thank you. I've pointed out several times the most important thing for today. I'm like, is anybody gonna say anything? Yeah, cement the relationship, regardless, cement the relationship. So, and that's what you were saying, is same thing.
It's a
So,
way to do it.
yeah, yeah. Anything else from this side of the room? We're gonna like play musical chairs in a minute. All right, so our final leg of this is servicing your database. This is gonna sound simple, and everyone say, yeah, of course you should service it. Bear with me. Would someone read that?
Your job is to build a community and serve the community.
Yeah, you know what's great? Who knows who Gary Keller is? Good. I got this side, raise your hand. All right. So Gary says, your database is your community. And we're to serve our community, so we're to serve our database. Like your database is your community is your database. You know, for me, when I was building my business, I wish I would have actually understood this like 10 years ago, just being completely honest with you. I wish I could go back 10 years ago, I would have understood this. My life would have been so much simpler if I understood that. Because, and not that I was wrong, I just think there was an easier approach. Nixa is my community. Nixa has 24,000 people that live there, right? How easy is it to get 24,000 people in a relationship? Pretty tough. But if I would have started with 10 or 100, like, it would have been so much easier. I started with 24,000. How big you make your community is completely up to you. How deep you go with your relationships, what you get out of it, 100% up to you. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have determined, really, I would have gotten a little bit deeper to my community, not just Nixa. Like who are, I mentioned the raving fans, the 12th man on the field. Like who are those people? Because I guarantee you all 24,000 of them don't like me. Probably less than 25% like me. Probably less than 5% like me. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? Like there are some though that we have a lot in common. There are some out there that we're really similar. There are some out there that tell everybody that I'm the best agent out there. Like those are the people I'm like, I would have started with those. Like, how do I build more on that? Like I mentioned earlier, that it's funny as a new agent, it's easy to get caught up in, I need to go buy leads. And then when we get to we look at the Dans and the Adams of the world, and they're like, how do we lean more into just those raving fans? So that's an interesting dynamic. So servicing all leads. So here's a question. Why do you think it's important to service your leads? Why do you think it's important to service your leads?
It keeps you top of mind.
Okay, what else?
Let's track of all your relationships.
Okay, yeah, what else?
If you serve them, they're going to refer you to somebody else.
Okay, I love that. I'm picking up on a theme. I got you right there. I like that. What else?
I'll call you.
I'll call you. I'm just gonna read this quote. Okay. A lead not followed up on becomes someone else's lead and source of business and income. I actually was like, holy crap. Ouch. A lead not followed up on becomes someone else's source of business and income. But why is it important to service our leads? So it becomes our future business. So it becomes our income. I'm going to tie that to that actually pairs perfectly. If you remember what I said, like how I differentiate a database and a lead, my future business, right? So I identify them and then I stay in touch with them. So I think we actually talked about this before. So as you're building this out, you're feeding the database, you're identifying them. Are they leads or are they contacts, right? You're putting them into categories. So it's important to track, like, where did they come from? Because I mentioned cold calling, I'm in trickle down, right? If I track all the people, all the leads that are coming in from circle dialing, I can make a connection, how many calls I'm making, how many are going in. Or if I'm tracking it, I can make a connection between how many of those coming in do I actually convert? Like, I can come up with a lot of insights by tracking the information. So we want to make sure we're tracking the information, the sources. We also want to track our how many times we communicate with them. Because if we are entering all of our communication, like we're putting all the information in, like on one hand, like it's nice because, okay, we talked to them 6 months later, a month later, 2 weeks later, we have the information from a previous conversation. Yet if we do it often enough, we can also start to get how many communications does it take to convert a lead? There's just a lot of information you can get once you start to track the information and actually enter it. So, and of course, we can see like who sends us referrals. Remember, I mentioned my VIP program. So for me, I wanted to identify those people, and that way I could provide more to them. So I want to get more referrals. So I want to encourage the behavior I want more of. So I'm gathering that most everybody here is somewhat familiar with Command, right? This portion. Yeah. So Command makes it pretty easy because the opportunities, what are opportunities? Yeah. So opportunities, we got campaigns. So what are campaigns?
Ads, marketing.
Marketing, yeah. And then the consumer hub. So, I mean, Command makes it pretty easy, so. And remember I mentioned, you're gonna see this a couple of times, so. Get all the information from today or any of the Ignites, if you went to Connect, or to Command your database, it gives you step-by-step on how to do everything, so. Don't really need to do anything other than just remind you that it's out there. Okay. Anything from that point you want to point out? Any questions? One thing that reminded of.
A lead not followed up on becomes someone else's income.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that was the one thing I was like,
Brian Fisher says it to me all the time. If I don't call him, he will. So every time I get ready to call him, like if I don't call this person, Brian Fisher's gonna call him, so.
I won't mention any agents' names. I was talking to an agent today and they said that they had someone reach out to them and was inquiring about a property. And when they found out who their agent had been, it was someone that they were friends with. And so they reached back out to that other agent and said, hey, they called me and just wasn't sure if you don't want to service this area or what happened. And then come find out they didn't actually call them back. So they went and found another agent. This person did the right, I mean, very ethical, moral person and made the connection back to them. They didn't have to, they did, because they didn't take them serious. So. All right, so the 4 laws, we build our database, feed it every day, communicate with it systematically, and we service all the leads. So would you say, I mean, so far, I know we've just covered the fundamentals of it. Do you guys feel more comfortable with the database and starting to how it works? Give me some feedback on how you're feeling comfortable with that or the concept of it.
I would like, my maybe biggest hang up right now is trying to think about what kind of tags I want to use and how many you should start with. Because I haven't really done anything where I've sorted my people by tags. So since I haven't used it, I'm not exactly sure. How many do you want when you just start? I don't want to overcomplicate it. I don't want to get too bogged down in the details that I don't ever do it.
Yeah. So I'll tell you my preference and I'm going to say what other people's preference are because I don't know that there's a right answer for that.
Yeah.
I think it's what you feel comfortable with. I will say Dan Holt, I was talking to him the other day and he was like, I'm taking my business down to 5 tags. He's like, we had all these tags and he's like, we're just going to simplify it. We're going to go down to the top 5. Okay, so for Dan, it's the top 5. For me, the more tags, the better. I personally, because I might stumble across another way to add value to you. And if I haven't filtered out by that, then it's like starting all over. I think regardless of which direction you go, I think the one thing to keep in mind is it's better to think upfront on all the tags you would want. Because if you get a year into it and you've got 1,000 people in there, and now you've decided you want to filter it by if they have dogs or not, or if they have cats or not, if they have pets or not, and you haven't done it, you now have to have 1,000 conversations to find that out. So it's better to know upfront, like what tags you would want to use.
When you talk about the top 5 tags, and I know that that was Dan, not you, but in your mind, what are the most crucial tags that you use?
I would say, well, if I was gonna go with me personally, I'll just say for me personally, because I can't speak for everyone. I would need to know if you're a future buyer or your future seller. So I would want to know that. I would want to know if you're sphere. I would probably say, I would probably do a VIP that's maybe my top 100. Probably buyer, seller, sphere, VIP. Other than that, the only other thing I would say I might do is a tag for A, B, and C. You guys familiar with A, B, and C's? So what's an A?
Somebody who's ready, willing, and able to buy, they want to buy within 90 days.
Okay, what's a B?
6 months to a year. Hoping to buy it in 6 months to a year.
I would say 3 months to 6 months.
So personally, what I do, an A is 3 months or less. A B is 3 to 6 months, and a C is anything over 6 months. That's me personally, so. As long as you define it, it doesn't have to be what I think.
I would put that my leads of obviously buyer, seller, or collaborator. And also my lead source, like open house, SOI.
Yeah, you could do that.
I like to keep it simple.
Yeah, I like that. So where did they come from? I think bare minimum, you need to know if they're gonna transact, if they're a possibility of transacting. You need to know, are they your sphere? I really believe in the raving fan idea. So like my VIPs is what I call them. Like I believe with all my heart in that right there. So, because they're gonna. Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
What's your goal this year, you know, guys?
38 transactions.
So she doesn't need 38 people. She needs 4 people that'll give her 10 leads each, right? Like, or however we want to work that. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
People that give you 4 leads.
yeah, I mean, like, think of it from that perspective, because there are people in your database that would give you that many leads. There are people that just like rave about you. Who are those people? Like, that's the quickest way to get your database up and going. So as you're building this out, a couple of things to keep in mind. So we want to make sure we follow the 4 laws. Like I said, if it were me, I would have them next to my computer. I would tape them on the wall. I would have them somewhere. I would never forget about them. Don't quit too soon. You know, you've got to think long-term. Like, I love Gary says, don't have a great year, have a great career. But don't just think about having a good year, think about having a good career. It might take a little while to build this up, and it might take a little while to start to get results. If you're working at 36 touch, to really get predictable results, it could take a year or more. Predictable results, not to say you wouldn't get anything sooner, just to get predictable results, it might take that long. You know, they say always come from care and service. My words were come from value, right? Always provide value and always care for them. That would be my perspective on it, is always have value. And remember, it's relationship business. So And I think the important thing is to remember, you're setting the foundation for as high as you're gonna go in the right? Like, I mean, you could have 20 years, 30 years, 40 years in this career, right? You want a really solid foundation. That's what this is building. And sometimes it takes a little bit. All right, takeaways, ha-has.
Real estate is a relationship business. I really didn't understand that coming into real estate. I know that sounds crazy, but I really didn't understand the depth and the complexity of that until getting in and realizing that that's really what it is about, is building those relationships and maintaining them.
I think that's one of my favorite things about Keller Williams, because not every agent understands that. And it really is like, you know what? It's not just real estate. Like, I think too many times we differentiate, like, that's my work and this is my personal life. And yet if you don't connect those two,
Yeah.
who's it about?
Sometimes I feel guilty about having coffee with a friend, but because I don't feel like I'm working, but at the same time I am working.
It's a relationship business. What's another takeaway?
Always provide value.
What's that?
Always to provide value for each conversation.
Yeah, goes back to what I say was the one most important thing.
Cement.
Relationship.
I have it written like 9 times, so.
You have to cement the relationship that comes from value. You always got to find some way to add value. Another takeaway. Aha.
Take 4 or 5 VPs to hit your numbers.
Right? Like too many times we think, oh man, I need all these people. You just need a handful of people that are going to give you referrals.
That's why I'll hop for this one. I didn't ever think about just like loving on 4 or 5 of my people that I friends or past clients to just bring me that 1 or 2, even 3 per person would make my career totally different.
I'm going to share with you my favorite lead generation story I've ever heard. And I remember the guy's first name was Nick. Now, I said his last name, I'd get it wrong. I'm not going to try pronouncing it. So he's a MAPS client. He's been interviewed on, he got started year 1 and came out of the gate and like closed 100 transactions. And year 2, I think he was somewhere around 300. Like it was a big deal what he did. And maybe it was year 2 was 250 and year 3 was 350. It was somewhere in there. I mean, it was a lot, right? And so I was interviewing him like, how did you do this? So I think I saw the interview, by the way. I was like, how did you do this? And he goes, well, I was a pastor before. So many times we think of this being this really complicated beast to go and lead generate, right? Because I was a pastor and that was my career. And my job as a pastor was every day to come into the office and I called the congregation. And my goal every day was to call 30 people and just ask how they were doing, how their family's doing. Can I do anything for them and can I pray for you? That was my whole job as a pastor, my entire career. I left the ministry, I got my license, I became a real estate agent, and I started a real estate business. I didn't know what to do. So I picked up the phone and I started calling people I know and I said, how are you doing? How's your family doing? Is there anything that I can do for you and can I pray for you? I know I'm not your pastor anymore, yet I've started my own business and I have a real estate team. So if something comes up and I can help you, I still want to be there for you because you're important to me. And he goes, my goal is just have 30 of those calls a day. And he goes, it was tough. Some days I'm doing it while I'm driving down the road. Some days I'm at my house, I'm making those last few phone calls. Because every day I just made 30 calls. And he said, and I ended the first year with 100 closed transactions. Isn't that crazy? Like we think that, not that there's anything wrong with this, and there's not, but we think sometimes that we have to go call for sale by owners and expireds to meet our goals. And here's a story of a guy that literally just called the people he knew and just added value and cared for them, loved on them a little bit and asked for business. My favorite lead generation story. All right, so you guys familiar with this slide from previous sections? Okay, so what I'd like for you to do, actually, I'm gonna share one more quote with you. One of my favorite John Maxwell quotes. Ready? The greatest learning moments don't come from experiences, they come from reflecting upon experiences. The greatest learning moments don't come from experiences, they come from reflected upon experience. Now I'm going to pair that with something else. Some of the most successful people I've ever met in my life, actually, I will say all of the successful people I've ever met, all have one commonality. They're very reflective. I cannot, and maybe there is someone out there, I can't even think of a successful person out there that's not reflective. You know what's funny, when I sit and talk to Dan Holt, he's gonna kill me. So when Dan and I get together, we talk business. It's funny, outwardly, a lot of people look at Dan and see his success. When we sit and have talks, he shares with me all about all of his failures. He doesn't sit around and brag about all the things he's done. He says, man, Jason, I think I really messed up on this deal over here. Like, we talk about how, like, what happened, where things went wrong, how we could get better. It's really interesting that someone to that level of success is so reflective on all of those things. Gary Keller, Adam Grady, man, if you ever have that conversation with Adam, he's so humble.
We had a team meeting this morning.
I was not.
So Jen Davis tells the story with the maps, you know, what's going on. You guys did that reverse, whatever.
Yeah.
And basically she said she created complete chaos because, you know, all these calls coming in and nobody can answer them. And so, but she said, imperfect action is better than perfect procrastination. So yes, get the point across that do something, but she clearly has reflected upon what she might have done differently if you do that again.
100%. And you know, I hear people say, and no one in this room, I'm sure, I hear people say, well, that's just not me. I'm just not a reflective person. And it's because it's not a trait, it's a skill set. Say it again, it's not a trait, it's a skill set. Maybe you just haven't practiced it enough to get there. Like, there was a point in time you couldn't tie your shoes. Like, someone taught you how to tie your shoes. Like, there's a point in time you couldn't drive a car, and everyone probably drove a car. So just because you can't do it now, well, doesn't mean you won't be able to. This means it's a skill you haven't perfected yet. So with that being said, I'd love for you to take just 5 minutes and journal and answer each one of these questions. And just a heads up, at the end of it, I'm going to give someone an opportunity to show some leadership and share one or two of these. It'll take 5 minutes. Remember, experience is not the best teacher. It is reflective on experience.
I don't know why. I don't know why it's going up. Fire alarm, for some reason. You shut it off? Did you shut it off? Really? Well, it would say gas, it was gas. Mhm. All right, so all was good. Kind of got a little bit startled there for a minute. I'm in a thing right now. Okay, I'll talk to you when I get home. I will talk to you when I get home.
Just kind of summon everything off, shut it down.
All right, so we got something written down? So I'd love for you to think of this as a leadership opportunity to step up, because it's uncomfortable when you share your, it can be uncomfortable. And it's okay, because in those moments where it is uncomfortable, are those moments where we're stepping out, because I guarantee you other people are thinking what you're thinking. So would anyone be willing to share one of their answers that they've determined? Please, Wendy.
Okay, so, the big takeaway is, you know, just what you were talking about, Dan Holt, and then I was thinking about Jen Davis and all these people that in my mind are uber successful are still making these mistakes and they're thinking about it. And I am a little bit of a perfectionist. I was always going through school and all that stuff, getting accolades and getting awards, and that's great and all, but then you turn into a mom and that disappears. And I think through that, I am beating myself up every day. I'm realizing, oh, I could have done that better. I could have done that better. I could have done that better. And so people tell me all the time, you're just so hard on yourself. You're so hard on yourself. And I think my takeaway today is, no, I'm not being too hard on myself. I just need to be realistic that I am going to continue to fail, but the failures I'm having today are probably different than the failures I had 10 years ago. They're more mature failures. They're better. So there is some growth in there, and it's okay to keep failing and realizing I'm failing, because without reflecting and realizing I made a mistake, I'm probably not going to have that growth. But maybe I can just focus on the growth a little bit and be proud of that part of it as I move forward in my journey.
You know what I love about what you said? It's a lot of things. Failure is just feedback. Failure is just feedback. And if we don't ever get feedback, we don't know how to change or improve. I will say that we can be our toughest critic. And as long as we have action to change, it's productive and healthy. I think when we don't have the action to change, and it's just beating yourself up. But I love that thought that failure is just feedback, right? I got that from, I was listening to a podcast, an interview of a professional baseball player. He's a pitcher. And he said, if I went out and had a horrible game and someone hit a home run off of me, he said, I would go back and I would say, where was my failure in this game? Where specifically did I fail? Now to him, he said, I probably failed to prepare. He said, because the game was one of my preparation. That was his perspective. And he said, if I had prepared for this batter differently, maybe I would have a different outcome. And failure is just feedback. Love that. What's another takeaway?
I think for myself, really making the connection. So, you know, you kind of have your personal relationships and then you have your work and for myself, ministry, missions, that type of thing. And I'd always kind of segmented those things, but I think today, you know, realizing those all can come together and actually serve one another. And you can add value to people professionally. And you can obviously get monetary reward from that, but also the relationships that you build in that are really going to be something that's good for you and for them.
I agree 100%. I love the perspective for me, like I had to approach real estate and think. So you are a real estate agent, right? You are a leader to the people that the buyers and the sellers you work with. You are a leader to them. The definition of a leader is you have influence and you serve them. Like leadership is all about how you serve others, right? So I love what you're saying because I think that's our job. It's to serve the people we have and find more people to serve. So.
I'm hearing a connection between what he's saying and what she said earlier with, you feel it too? Like she didn't feel like she was working and she's having coffee with a friend and you have that guilt, but kind of the same with you, like give yourself credit for working way more hours than you are if you just kind of bring them together. Yeah, you can tap all those resources and huddle them.
I think where we start to feel this off feeling is, I'm gonna give the example of, you know, all of this that we've talked about today is about how do we create this system where we can farm it, right? Like think of farming where you plant seeds, and you come and harvest later. Like all of this is about creating systems for farming. And when we're not getting business quick enough, we have to go hunt. Right? The hunting is calling for sub owners and expireds. Like it's stressful to hunt. It sucks to hunt, right? We wouldn't hear Joyce calling expireds. What? I don't. I hate calling expireds. Yet I promise you if I'm behind my goals, I'm probably doing that or some other form of cold calling because I know I have to hunt. If I don't find the business.
I'm gonna add to that too. If we're at a point where we don't have anything happening, it does feel like we're hunting when we're in our database. So changing that mentality from a hunting perspective to a farming perspective, I think is perfect.
Yeah.
Because it changes how you come across a date for sure.
Yeah.
Because when you just said that, you know, if you're behind, you start hunting. But I think for a lot of us, we're still new and early in this, so we are hunting. So changing our mindset from a hunt to a farmer, I think would be beneficial.
Yeah, go back to this right here. When you set these systems up, you have to think long-term because to get predictable results from this, it could take a year longer. It's possible, not that you will get business from it. Before that, just to get predictable results, it might take a while. Now, at some point in time, you will create the systems and you will start to get predictable results. And until then, you know what? You're gonna have to call expireds for sub owners, the circle prospecting, the door knocking, the open houses, it doesn't matter. You gotta go hunt if you want to eat. Great AHAs, by the way. What other AHAs takeaways you guys have?
Mine was, well, I wrote value like 92 times on my page. So obviously I need to become more value, give more value. But then I also started reflecting on how and what I communicate. So going, I don't know if I'm gonna have to go back to my whole database and rethink what I'm doing or just dive in a little bit deeper and just make sure it's what I wanna say. Cause I've already got smart plans set up. So I feel like now I've got to go back and reevaluate that and see if I'm saying what I want to say, or do I need to say something different?
So one of the future sections is going to help you put together a 36 touch. So if you, as long as you'll stay committed to the process through the night, they're going to help you put this together. So I'm not sure exactly which section it is. They're going to help you with this. So I love your awareness and just know that they're going to get there too. So how about this side? You guys have any takeaways? You guys get anything out of today?
I got value.
Can you define the value?
Yes.
Let you guys know this word though.
No, and I never thought about it like that way, but it's so like mind blowing to me.
In what way?
It's just like doing whatever you're already doing, but adding more value to it, making more. Add value to other people, yeah, for them to keep the relationship going.
I have a super simple story that I don't know if it'll help anybody, but it just like popped into my mind. My, on Friday, we had a very impromptu, 12-year-old boys ended up spending the night at my house. And at one point, I'm finding one of the 12-year-old boys, and they're in the basement of the house. It's a 3-level house. And one of the boys has gone all the way to the top and is sitting right outside of my daughter's bedroom, which was just a little bit creepy, but he was just sitting there by himself. And so I went up and I asked, I was like, hey, what's going on? And he said, well, the other boys aren't being nice to me. And I said, well, give me an example. What are they doing? What are they saying? And basically, they hadn't done anything wrong, but he was very much, this is what I want to say, and I want everybody to listen to me right now. And the other boys would keep talking. And to him, that was just so offensive and he couldn't get it. And I mean, we got through the conversation fine as like a kid and adult and we had a discussion and he all was good. But later I thought about that and I thought about it in like the adult context. He wasn't providing any fun for anybody. Everything that happened, he was just pointing out that he was getting left out. And I thought about it later. I was like, I wish I could have like said to him, like, contribute to the fun, add something of value to the other kids, and they're going to want to include you. But he was really upset. He's like, I've been up here for 10 minutes and they haven't noticed. And I'm like, well,
Take ownership, provide value.
yeah, he was not providing value to the group of kids.
Can you come talk to Jax about that?
Right. So glad I passed.
Yeah, he wasn't there.
Yeah, no.
All right, what are our success systems?
10 conversations.
Anything else?
Follow the 4
Social
laws.
media.
Anything else?
And handwritten notes, 10-5-1.
Yeah, yep. So today we're gonna start by doing some role plays first. So they give us a script. If you guys will go to, sorry.
For those of you online, we're gonna go ahead and cut it off here. Can you ask questions? Is that cool?
If you go to, I think it's towards the back of your book is C13, the gratitude script. So